Crick sat in the metal chair inside the observation room of the High Command building. The walls were dark gray and cold. No windows showed the outside world. Only bright white lights hung from the ceiling. He had been waiting for 2 hours. His hands rested on his knees as he stared at the empty desk in front of him. The door opened with a soft sound. Commander Vex walked in wearing the dark blue uniform of the High Command. His face showed no emotion. He carried a thin data tablet in his right hand. "Agent Crix," Commander Vex said as he sat down behind the desk. "You have served the Valdori Confederation for 230 years. "Yes, Commander," Crix replied. He kept his voice calm and steady. "Your record shows successful observation missions on 47 different worlds. You have helped us understand the nature of many species." Vex looked at the tablet. Zephyrians on Kepler 442b, the crystal beings of Tau Ceti, the floating cities of Proxima Centauri C. Crix nodded. Each mission had been different. Each species had their own ways of living, fighting, and dying. But they all followed patterns that the Confederation understood. Strong species conquered weak ones. Advanced civilizations destroyed primitive ones. Fear and power ruled the galaxy. "Today we have a new assignment for you," Vex continued. He touched the tablet and a hologram appeared above the desk. It showed a blue and green planet with white clouds. "This world is called Terra 3 by our navigation systems. The inhabitants call it Earth." The planet looked beautiful in the spinning hologram. Crix had seen thousands of worlds, but something about this one seemed different. The colors were bright and clean. The ocean sparkled like jewels. "What species lives there?" Crix asked. "They call themselves humans," Vex said. "Our long-range sensors detected them 6 months ago. They have only recently developed basic spaceflight. Their technology is very primitive by our standards." Crix studied the hologram. He could see small lights on the dark side of the planet. Cities, he assumed. They were scattered across all the continents, not concentrated in safe areas like most young civilizations. "What do we know about their society?" Crix asked. Vex touched the tablet again. Images appeared showing tall buildings, vehicles moving on roads, and small flying craft. "They appear to live in large groups called cities. They have many different nations on their world. These nations sometimes fight each other, but they also trade and communicate." "That is unusual," Crix said. Most species he observed were either unified under one ruler or constantly at war. These humans seem to be something in between. "Indeed," Vex agreed. "They have developed weapons that could destroy their entire world, yet they have not used them for complete conquest. This suggests either great wisdom or great weakness." Crix had seen both types before. Wise species usually retreated from conflict and lived quiet lives until stronger civilizations found them. Weak species destroyed themselves with their own weapons before they could become a threat to anyone else. "Our preliminary scans show approximately 8 billion individuals," Vex continued. "They have spread to every continent on their planet, even the coldest regions. They have small stations in orbit and have sent basic probes to nearby planets." 8 billion, Crix repeated. That was a large population for such a primitive species. Usually, worlds with that many inhabitants were either highly advanced or on the edge of collapse from resource problems. Vex made the hologram disappear. "Your mission is simple. Travel to their system, observe their behavior and technology, determine what category they should be assigned." Crix knew the categories well. Category 1 meant primitive species suitable for resource extraction or slavery. Category 2 meant developing civilizations that could be useful as workers or soldiers. Category 3 meant advanced species that might become allies or trading partners. Category 4 meant potential threats that needed careful watching. Category 5 meant immediate dangers that required elimination. "How long do I have for observation?" Crix asked. "Standard protocol?" 90 days minimum. Longer if you need more data." Vex stood up from his chair. "Your ship is being prepared now. You will depart tomorrow morning." Crix also stood. "Are there any special instructions, Commander?" "Use standard concealment technology. Do not make contact unless absolutely necessary. Focus on their military capabilities, technological development, and social structure." Vex paused. "The High Command is particularly interested in whether they pose any future threat to Confederation territory." "Understood, Commander." "One more thing, Agent Crix." Vex looked directly at him. "Early reports suggest these humans may be more dangerous than they appear. They have survived several natural disasters that should have destroyed their civilization. They have weapons they choose not to use. They cooperate across great distances despite having no central government. Crix felt a small chill run down his spine. In his experience, species that survived when they should have died often had hidden strengths that were not immediately obvious. "I will be thorough in my observations," Crix said. "See that you are. The future security of the Confederation may depend on your report." After Vex left, Crix remained in the room for several minutes. He stared at the spot where the hologram of Earth had been spinning. Something about this mission felt different from all the others. Usually he could predict what he would find before he even arrived at a world. Primitive species followed predictable patterns, but humans seemed to break several of those patterns already. They had not unified their world under one ruler. They had not destroyed themselves with their weapons. They had not retreated into isolated communities. Instead, they had spread across their entire planet and were reaching toward the stars. Crix walked through the corridors of the High Command building toward his quarters. Other Valdori passed him in the hallways, but none spoke. The Confederation valued efficiency and order above social interaction. In his room, Crix began gathering his equipment for the mission. Scanning devices for analyzing technology, recording tools for documenting behavior, translation programs for understanding their languages, concealment systems for hiding his presence. As he packed, he thought about the 47 other species he had observed. The Zephyrians had been beautiful but weak. They surrendered without fighting when the Confederation arrived. The crystal beings had been intelligent but isolated. They showed no interest in expanding beyond their own world. The floating city dwellers had been advanced but divided. They were too busy fighting each other to pose any external threat. Each species had fit neatly into one of the 5 categories. Each had behaved exactly as the Confederation databases predicted they would behave. Crix wondered which category these humans would fit into. Based on the preliminary data, they should be Category 1 or 2 at most. Primitive technology, no unified government, small population compared to galactic standards. But something in Commander Vex's voice suggested the humans might surprise him. Crix finished packing and lay down on his sleeping platform. Tomorrow he would begin the journey to Earth. In a few weeks, he would be watching these humans from orbit, studying their cities, recording their behavior, measuring their capabilities. He had done this many times before. It was always the same. Observe, analyze, categorize, report. Simple and efficient. Yet as he closed his eyes, Crix found himself looking forward to this mission more than usual. Perhaps it was the mystery of a species that survived when it should have died. Perhaps it was curiosity about beings who had weapons of mass destruction, but chose not to use them for conquest. Or perhaps it was something else entirely. Something he could not name or understand. Whatever it was, Crix knew that tomorrow would begin a mission unlike any he had undertaken before. Crix's ship hung invisible above Earth like a metal shadow. 3 weeks had passed since his arrival. The concealment systems worked perfectly. The humans below had no idea they were being watched. From his observation deck, Crix could see the entire planet spinning slowly beneath him. The blue oceans and green continents looked peaceful. But his instruments told a different story. This world was busy with activity. Millions of vehicles moved on roads. Thousands of aircraft flew through the sky. Radio signals bounced between continents carrying voices, images, and data. He had chosen his first study target carefully. In the southern polar region, a small research station sat on the ice. 12 humans lived there, studying weather patterns and ice conditions. Their equipment was basic compared to Valdori technology, but they used it well. Dr. Yun led the team. She was a woman in her 40s with short black hair and intelligent eyes. She worked 16 hours every day, taking measurements and recording data. Her dedication impressed Crix. Most species he observed showed such focus only during mating seasons or territorial disputes. Her assistant was a young woman named Nari. She operated the communication equipment and helped with the scientific instruments. Nari smiled often and spoke kindly to everyone at the station. Crix had never seen behavior like this in other species. Kindness usually meant weakness. But Nari worked as hard as anyone else. The station's engineer was a man called Day. He maintained all their equipment and vehicles. His hands were always dirty from repair work, but his repairs were clever and effective. He could fix almost anything with basic tools and spare parts. Crix watched them for days, learning their routines. They woke early and worked late. They shared their food equally, even when supplies ran low. They helped each other with difficult tasks. They seemed to enjoy each other's company. This puzzled Crix. In his experience, different individuals competing for resources led to conflict. Stronger members dominated weaker ones. Leaders took the best food and shelter for themselves. But these humans did none of these things. On the 18th day of observation, everything changed. A massive storm approached the research station. Crix's weather instruments showed winds of over 200 kilometers per hour. The temperature would drop to minus 40 degrees. Any rational species would evacuate immediately, but the humans did not leave. "We need to protect the core samples," Dr. Hyun told her team during their emergency meeting. Crix listened through their communication systems. 20 years of research is stored in the ice laboratory. If we lose it, we lose everything we've learned about climate change. "The transport aircraft can't land in this weather," Day said, "and our vehicles can't make it to the pickup point through the storm." "Then we stay and ride it out," Nari said simply. Crix checked his database. No other species had ever voluntarily remained in lethal conditions to protect scientific data. Information was useful but not worth dying for, yet these humans seemed willing to risk their lives for knowledge that might help their entire species. The storm hit 6 hours later. Crix watched from orbit as hurricane-force winds battered the small station. Snow flew through the air like bullets. The temperature dropped so fast that his instruments struggled to keep up. The station's main power generator failed after 2 hours. Any reasonable beings would have taken shelter and waited for rescue. Instead, Day put on protective clothing and went outside into the storm. He fought through winds that could knock over trees. Ice formed on his suit within minutes. His movements became slow and clumsy from the cold. But he reached the backup generator and got it working. When he returned to the station, he was barely conscious from cold exposure. Hana, the team's medic, worked to warm him up and treat his frostbite. But even as she cared for him, she also monitored the laboratory temperature to make sure their samples stayed frozen. The storm lasted 36 hours. During that time, the humans took turns going outside to keep the generator running and clear snow from critical equipment. They shared their body heat to prevent hypothermia. They gave their warmest clothes to whoever was working outside. Crix had observed many species facing survival situations. Usually the strong survived and the weak died. Sometimes groups worked together, but only when it benefited everyone equally. These humans were different. They risked everything for each other and for their mission. On the second day of the storm, team member Wu injured his leg badly while checking the antenna array. The bone was broken and he could not walk. Medical evacuation was impossible in the storm conditions. Dr. Hyun faced a terrible choice. The team could try to reach the emergency shelter 5 kilometers away, but carrying Wu through the storm would slow them down and put everyone at risk. The logical decision would be to leave him behind with supplies and return for him after the storm. But that is not what happened. "We all go together, or we all stay together," Dr. Hyun announced. "No one gets left behind." The team spent hours preparing for the journey. They built a makeshift stretcher from equipment parts. They planned a route that would protect Wu from the worst wind. They redistributed their food and water so the strongest team members could carry the most weight. The journey took 8 hours through conditions that should have killed them all. They took turns pulling the stretcher. When someone became too tired or cold to continue, others took their place. They stopped frequently to warm Wu and check his condition. Crix watched in amazement as they helped each other through snowdrifts taller than their heads. When Nari collapsed from exhaustion, Day carried her pack as well as his own. When the stretcher broke, they used their own clothing to repair it. When they ran out of food, they shared melted snow and kept moving. They reached the emergency shelter with all 12 team members alive. Wu survived his injury. The scientific samples were recovered intact. The mission was completed successfully, but what impressed Crix most was what happened after they were rescued. When news reporters asked Dr. Hyun about their survival, she did not talk about her own leadership or courage. Instead, she praised every member of her team. She called them heroes and said she could not have done it without them. This behavior made no sense according to Valdori understanding. Leaders took credit for success and blamed others for failure. It was the natural order of hierarchical societies. But these humans seemed to follow different rules. Crix began expanding his observations to other human settlements. He He watched a mining colony where workers risked cave-ins to rescue trapped colleagues. He observed a space station where the captain shared his own life support with injured crew members. He studied a remote outpost where scientists continued dangerous research that could save lives across their world. Everywhere he looked, humans displayed the same puzzling behavior. They helped each other even when it cost them personally. They shared resources with strangers. They worked together toward goals that might not benefit them directly. In his private logs, Crix wrote, "Subject species displays cooperation patterns unknown in Confederation database. Individuals regularly sacrifice personal advantage for group benefit. This behavior appears consistent across multiple environments and situations. Further observation required to understand underlying motivations. But privately, Crix was beginning to suspect that humanity might be something completely new in his experience, something that did not fit into any of the 5 categories the Confederation used to classify civilizations, something that might change everything he thought he knew about intelligent life in the galaxy. On day 41 of his mission, Crix detected something that made his blood run cold. His ship's long-range sensors had found an object moving through space toward Earth. It was massive, dark, and moving fast, an asteroid. Nearly 2 kilometers wide, Crix ran the calculations 3 times to be sure. The space rock would hit Earth in exactly 67 days. The impact would create an explosion equal to millions of nuclear weapons. It would throw dust and debris into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight for years. Most life on the planet would die. The humans had not detected it yet. Their space monitoring systems were too primitive to spot something so far away. By the time they found it, they would have perhaps 30 days to prepare. Not enough time to evacuate their entire population. Crix had witnessed planetary extinction events before. The pattern was always the same. First came denial as governments refused to believe the threat was real. Then panic as the truth spread among the population. Then chaos as social order collapsed and people fought desperately for limited escape resources. Finally, acceptance. The strongest and richest would save themselves while the weak and poor were left behind to die. It was the natural way of things. Survival of the fittest applied to individuals and entire civilizations. Crix settled back to observe humanity's final chapter. It would be educational to see how this unusual species behaved when facing certain doom. Would their cooperation break down? Would their leaders abandon their people? Would they fight each other for the few escape ships they could build? 26 days later, Dr. June at the Seoul Space Observatory made the discovery. Crix watched through their communication networks as the news spread around the world. Government leaders held emergency meetings. Scientists confirmed the calculations. Military commanders assessed their options. The reaction was not what Crix expected. Instead of panic, there was immediate action. Instead of denial, there was acceptance of reality. Instead of every nation protecting only itself, something unprecedented happened. They chose to work together. Within hours, enemies became allies. Countries that had been at war for decades shared their military resources. Scientists who had spent their careers competing with each other began collaborating openly. The entire planet seemed to unite overnight. President Kim of the Eastern Coalition appeared on television addressing the world. "This threat faces all humanity," she said. "We will face it as one people, not as separate nations. Every resource, every mind, every capable hand will be devoted to our survival." Crix checked his database again. No species in Confederation records had ever responded to extinction threats with immediate global cooperation. Usually, it took years of negotiation and compromise to achieve even basic agreements between different groups. These humans had done it in less than a day. The plan they developed was ambitious beyond all reason. Instead of simply evacuating as many people as possible, they intended to deflect the asteroid away from Earth. The mathematical probability of success was less than 12%. Even by Crix's generous calculations, any rational species would focus on saving themselves. These humans were apparently going to try to save their entire world. Engineer Tay led the technical team designing the deflection mission. He was a quiet man who had spent his career building satellites and space probes. Now he worked 20 hours a day creating weapons of unprecedented power, nuclear charges that could be guided precisely to specific points on the asteroid's surface. The plan required multiple spacecraft to carry the charges into space. Humanity's entire space industry was converted overnight to support the mission. Civilian factories began producing rocket parts. Military facilities shared their most advanced technology. Private companies donated their resources without expecting payment. Pilot Yu volunteered to lead the spacecraft squadron. She was a test pilot with 15 years of experience. She knew the mission would require her to fly farther from Earth than any human had ever gone. She also knew that the spacecraft did not carry enough fuel for a return journey. "Someone has to guide the charges to the target," she told the mission planners during a recorded meeting. "Manual control will give us the best chance of precise placement. The success of the mission matters more than getting home." 18 other pilots volunteered for the same one-way mission. Crix was fascinated. Every species he had studied showed strong self-preservation instincts. Individuals might sacrifice themselves to protect their offspring or immediate family members. But these humans were willing to die for people they had never met on the opposite side of their planet. Dr. Min coordinated the global scientific effort. She worked with research teams in dozens of countries, sharing data and coordinating experiments. Her specialty was asteroid composition analysis, which would be crucial for determining where to place the explosive charges. But Dr. Min did something that puzzled Crix completely. She began broadcasting detailed scientific information toward other star systems. The radio signals were aimed at nearby solar systems where planets might harbor intelligent life. "If we fail," she explained in her transmitted messages, "this information might help other civilizations facing similar threats. The mathematical models, the deflection techniques, the lessons we learn from our attempt, all of this could be valuable to species we will never meet." Crix checked the target coordinates of her transmissions. She was sending the data toward systems that human astronomy had identified as potentially habitable, but humans had no way to know if anyone lived in those systems. They would never receive any benefit from sharing this information. Yet Dr. Min spent precious time and energy creating these messages when she could have focused entirely on saving her own world. She was thinking beyond her species, beyond her planet, beyond any possible personal gain. The asteroid deflection mission launched 43 days after discovery. 12 spacecraft carrying nuclear charges and guidance systems. 19 volunteer pilots who knew they would not return home. The entire operation coordinated by teams working around the clock in dozens of countries. Crix watched the launch from orbit. The primitive rockets struggled to escape Earth's gravity, but they succeeded through sheer determination and flawless execution. One by one, the spacecraft separated from their boosters and began the long journey toward the asteroid. The mission would take 18 days to reach the target. During that time, the pilots maintained constant communication with ground control. They reported technical problems, shared solutions, and encouraged each other during the lonely journey through space. Commander Hai led the squadron with steady professionalism. When Pilot Bo's navigation system failed, she talked him through manual repairs using spare parts. When Pilot Rim's life support began malfunctioning, she rearranged the formation so other ships could monitor his condition. On day 16 of the flight, they encountered their first major crisis. The asteroid was not solid rock as expected. Deep scanning revealed it was actually two large pieces held together by loose debris. This changed all their calculations for where to place the charges. Instead of abandoning the mission or following their original plan anyway, the pilots adapted. They worked with Dr. Min's team on Earth to recalculate the detonation sequence. They repositioned their ships based on the new data. They modified their approach completely while flying through empty space millions of kilometers from home. The flexibility and problem-solving ability they displayed impressed Crix more than their courage. Most species he knew followed rigid plans and procedures. When circumstances changed, they either failed completely or required extensive consultation with higher authorities. These humans made critical decisions quickly and effectively while under enormous pressure. They trusted each other completely and adapted their strategy in real time. On day 18, the squadron reached the asteroid. What happened next would stay with Crix for the rest of his life. The pilots performed their mission with precision and dedication that exceeded every prediction. They placed the nuclear charges exactly where the calculations indicated they would be most effective. They coordinated the simultaneous detonation sequence perfectly. The asteroid split apart. The largest pieces changed course enough to miss Earth by a safe margin. Some smaller fragments would still impact the planet, but they would cause regional damage rather than global extinction. Humanity had achieved something that Crix's database said was impossible. A primitive species with limited technology had successfully defended their world from cosmic destruction through cooperation, sacrifice, and sheer determination. But what impressed Crix most happened after the mission succeeded. Instead of celebrating their victory, the humans immediately began preparing for the aftermath. They organized rescue teams for the regions where fragments would impact. They shared their deflection technology with all nations so everyone could prepare for future threats. Most remarkably, they continued broadcasting their success to other star systems. Dr. Min expanded her transmissions to include detailed accounts of what had worked and what had failed. She wanted unknown civilizations to learn from humanity's experience. In his report to the High Command, Crix faced an impossible choice. By every standard measurement, humans should be classified as Category 2. Their technology was primitive, their military was weak, and their society. Crix made a decision that went against every rule he had followed for over 2 centuries of service. As the human spacecraft approached the asteroid, he activated his ship's advanced sensor array and began analyzing the target in detail. What he discovered changed everything. The asteroid contained trace elements that would make the human nuclear charges far less effective than their calculations predicted. The composition was unusual, with dense metallic cores surrounded by loose rocky material. Their explosives would scatter the debris rather than deflect it cleanly. The mission would fail. The asteroid would still hit Earth. Humanity would die believing they had succeeded until the final moments. For 17 minutes, Crix sat motionless in his command chair. Every protocol demanded that he remain a passive observer. The Confederation had strict rules about interfering with primitive civilizations. Breaking those rules could result in his imprisonment or execution. But the faces of Dr. Hyun and her research team appeared in his memory. Day working through the blizzard to save his companions, Nari sharing her warmth with injured colleagues. Yu volunteering for a mission she knew would kill her. Min broadcasting scientific knowledge to unknown civilizations who might benefit from it. These humans had shown him something he had never seen before in all his years of observation. They had demonstrated that strength could come from caring about others. That individuals could accomplish impossible things when they worked together with complete trust. Crix activated his communication systems. He sent the detailed sensor data directly to the human spacecraft, routing it through their primitive communication networks in a way that would appear to be a breakthrough in their own analysis. The transmission included precise asteroid composition data, optimal charge placement coordinates, and adjusted detonation timing calculations. Pilot Yu received the data during her final approach to the asteroid. Crix watched through their communication channels as she studied the new information with her team. Command, we're receiving updated analysis on asteroid composition, are reported to Earth. The data shows significant metallic density variations we didn't detect before. Dr. Min's voice came back from Mission Control. Can you confirm the source of this information, Yu? It appears to be a breakthrough in our deep space scanning algorithms, Yu replied. The computer systems are showing enhanced resolution capability we haven't seen before. Crix held his breath. Would the humans question this sudden advancement in their technology? Would they waste time investigating the source instead of using the information? The new data makes sense with what we're seeing visually, Commander Hai added from her spacecraft. The asteroid surface shows exactly the density variations the updated scans indicate. Then we adjust the mission parameters accordingly, Yu decided without hesitation. Redistributing charges based on the enhanced data. What amazed Crix was that the humans didn't spend precious time wondering about their good fortune. They simply accepted the improved information and built upon it immediately. They showed a remarkable ability to adapt and use whatever resources became available. The squadron repositioned their spacecraft based on the new data. Engineer Tay worked with the pilots to recalculate the explosive sequences. Dr. Min's team updated their mathematical models in real time. Charge placement complete, Yu reported 18 minutes later. All units report ready for synchronized detonation. You are cleared for detonation. Sequence, came the reply from Earth. Good luck up there. Crix watched as the nuclear charges exploded in perfect sequence across the asteroid's surface. The enhanced placement strategy worked exactly as his calculations had predicted. The asteroid broke apart cleanly, with the largest fragments deflected away from Earth's orbital path. But even as he felt satisfaction at the mission's success, Crix realized what he had done. He had violated the most fundamental rule of Confederation service. He had interfered with a primitive civilization's natural development. More importantly, he had revealed something about himself that he had not known existed. Somewhere during his weeks of observation, he had begun to care what happened to these humans. Their courage and cooperation had affected him in ways he did not understand. The rescue and cleanup operations that followed the asteroid mission impressed Crix even more than the deflection itself. Small fragments still impacted Earth in several locations, causing significant damage to cities and farmland. The human response was immediate and coordinated. Pilot Bo, whose spacecraft had survived the mission with enough fuel to return home, landed her damaged craft in the middle of the worst impact zone. Instead of flying to safety, she used her ship's equipment to coordinate rescue operations for injured civilians. Dr. AA organized medical response teams across 3 continents, sharing resources and expertise to treat victims in remote impact areas. She worked for days without sleep, coordinating between hospitals, military units, and volunteer organizations. The recovery efforts revealed more of humanity's unusual nature. Nations that had been enemies weeks earlier now shared their emergency supplies freely. Rich countries sent aid to poor ones without being asked. Individual humans donated money, food, and time to help strangers they would never meet. But what struck Crix most deeply was a conversation he overheard between Dr. Min and her research assistant. They were discussing the scientific data collected during the asteroid mission. "We should publish everything immediately," Dr. Min said. "Full technical specifications, detailed failure analysis, mathematical models, everything we learned." "But Director," her assistant replied, "this information could have military applications. Other nations could use our deflection technology as weapons." "That's exactly why we need to share it," Dr. Min explained. "If we keep this knowledge secret, only we will be prepared for the next asteroid threat." But asteroids don't care about national boundaries. The next impact could happen anywhere on Earth. Everyone needs access to this technology. She paused, looking at data displays showing the successful mission results. "Besides, if we share our knowledge freely, others will build upon it and improve it. The next time humanity faces this kind of threat, we'll be even better prepared." This philosophy baffled Crix completely. In his experience, advanced knowledge was power. Species guarded their technological advantages carefully and used them to dominate others. Sharing valuable information with potential competitors was considered foolish or dangerous. Yet Dr. Min was arguing for exactly the opposite approach. She wanted to give away humanity's most important discovery so that everyone could benefit from it. She seemed to believe that making others stronger would ultimately make humanity stronger as well. Over the following weeks, Crix observed humans implementing exactly this philosophy. They established international asteroid monitoring networks, sharing detection responsibilities and data freely. They created joint space programs, pooling resources from multiple nations for more ambitious missions. Most remarkably, they began developing plans for defending other planets in their solar system, even though no humans lived there. The logic, as Dr. Min explained in her broadcasts, was that impacts on nearby worlds could affect Earth's climate and stability. "We are not just protecting our own world," she transmitted to unknown civilizations among the stars. "We are learning to protect entire solar systems. This knowledge belongs to everyone who might need it." When Crix submitted his progress report to the High Command, he found himself in an unprecedented situation. The evidence clearly showed that humans were too primitive to pose any military threat to the Confederation. Their weapons were basic, their spacecraft were slow, and their technology was centuries behind Valdori standards. But they had demonstrated capabilities that did not appear in any Confederation database. They had achieved global cooperation in less than a month. They had successfully executed a planetary defense mission with minimal resources. They had shown willingness to sacrifice individual advantage for collective benefit. Most troubling from a Confederation perspective, they had begun reaching beyond their own world with altruistic intentions. They were developing technologies and strategies specifically designed to help others, including species they had never encountered. In his private logs, Crix wrote, "Subject species demonstrates unprecedented combination of technological adaptability and cooperative behavior. Individual sacrifice for group benefit appears to be fundamental cultural trait, not survival-driven aberration. Species shows consistent pattern of seeking to strengthen others rather than dominate them. He stared at those words for a long time before adding, recommend immediate review of classification protocols. Subject species does not fit existing categories. But even as he wrote those words, Crix knew the High Command would not understand. They would see only humanity's primitive technology and fragmented political structure. They would classify humans as Category 2 at most, suitable for eventual subjugation or resource extraction. They would not recognize the true danger these humans represented. Not danger in the traditional sense of military threat or territorial expansion, but something far more subversive and potentially transformative. Humanity had the power to change how civilizations thought about strength, cooperation, and their responsibilities to others. They had demonstrated that. The reply from the High Command arrived exactly 7 days after Crix submitted his preliminary report. Admiral Vex's message was brief and dismissive. Agent Crix, your observations of emotional cooperation during crisis situations are noted but not unexpected. Many primitive species display temporary unity when facing extinction threats. Continue monitoring for standard post-crisis behavioral patterns. Expect social fragmentation, resource conflicts, and leadership power struggles within 30 days. Submit final classification report in 60 days. Crix read the message 3 times before deleting it. Admiral Vex clearly believed that humanity would follow the same predictable pattern as every other species the Confederation had studied. Temporary cooperation followed by inevitable breakdown into competing factions. But Crix had been watching the humans for over 2 months now. He knew they were different. The question was whether he could prove it before the Confederation made a decision that could not be undone. He expanded his observation network to monitor human settlements across their entire planet. Government meetings, scientific conferences, military planning sessions, civilian communications. He wanted to document everything that happened during humanity's recovery from the asteroid crisis. What he saw in the following weeks defied every prediction in the Confederation database. Instead of fighting over limited resources, the humans created new systems for sharing what they had. Director, in established global coordination centers for disaster relief, ensuring that aid reached the most damaged areas regardless of political boundaries. The centers were staffed by volunteers from dozens of countries working together seamlessly. Instead of blaming their leaders for the near disaster, the humans praised everyone who had contributed to their survival. Coordinator Ah organized memorial services for the pilots who had died in the asteroid mission, honoring them as heroes of all humanity, rather than just their own nations. Instead of returning to their previous conflicts, the nations of Earth began dismantling weapon systems and redirecting military resources toward space defense programs. They seemed to have realized that their real enemies were not each other, but the hostile forces of nature that threatened their entire species. Most remarkably, they accelerated their space exploration programs with a new sense of purpose. Explorer led missions to establish early warning stations throughout their solar system. The goal was not just to protect Earth, but to create a comprehensive detection network that could spot threats long before they became dangerous. Engineer Kim designed new spacecraft specifically intended for deep space missions. But these ships were not built for conquest or resource extraction. They were mobile construction platforms, designed to build protective installations around other planets and moons. Our solar system has 8 major worlds and dozens of smaller bodies, Kim explained during a recorded planning meeting. An impact on any of them could affect the others. We need to think beyond just protecting Earth. The technology we've developed for asteroid deflection could be adapted for many purposes, added Dr. Cha, the mission's scientific coordinator. Asteroid mining, comet redirection, even terraforming projects. We could help other worlds become more suitable for life. Crix found this conversation deeply disturbing. These humans were talking about spreading their protective capabilities to worlds they didn't even inhabit. They were planning to spend enormous resources defending empty planets that provided no immediate benefit to Earth. By Confederation logic, this behavior was completely irrational. Rational species focused their efforts on expanding their own territory and gathering resources for their own use. They only protected what belonged to them, but humans seemed to operate by different rules. They appeared to believe that making the entire solar system safer would ultimately benefit everyone, including species that hadn't been discovered yet. When Crix submitted his updated observations to the High Command, the response was swift and alarming. Agent Crix, your report suggests significant deviation from expected post-crisis patterns. High Command has reviewed your data and concluded that subject species Terra 3 may represent Category 4 threat potential. Expansion of protective capabilities beyond homeworld indicates possible aggressive intentions, disguised as defensive measures, the message continued, with orders that made Crix's hands shake as he read them. Recommend immediate reclassification to Category 5. Extinction Fleet Alpha 7 has been dispatched to Terra 3 system. Estimated arrival, 43 days. Maintain observation protocols until fleet arrival. Do not interfere with subjects under any circumstances. Category 5. Complete extinction. The Confederation had decided that humanity was too dangerous to survive. Crix sat in his command chair staring at the message for hours. 43 days until an entire fleet of warships arrived to destroy every human city, every space station, every trace of civilization on Earth. The irony was bitter. Humanity was being sentenced to death precisely because they had shown the courage and cooperation that could save them. Their willingness to protect others, to share their knowledge freely, to work together across all boundaries. These virtues had been interpreted as threats. Over the following days, Crix watched the humans with new eyes. Dr. Hyun continued her polar research, studying climate patterns that could help predict future environmental changes. Her work might save millions of lives, but she would never live to see the results. Pilot Bo trained new astronauts for deep space missions, sharing her hard-won experience with the next generation of explorers. Her students would die before they could use her teachings. Dr. Min continued broadcasting scientific data toward distant star systems, hoping to help unknown civilizations she would never meet. Her messages would outlive her species by thousands of years, carrying human knowledge across the galaxy long after Earth was nothing but radioactive debris. The injustice of it consumed Crix's thoughts. These beings who had shown such dedication to helping others were going to be destroyed by a civilization that saw their generosity as a threat. But what could one observation ship do against an extinction fleet? Crix's vessel was built for stealth and surveillance, not combat. His weapon systems were minimal, intended only for emergency self-defense. Even if he warned the humans about the approaching fleet, their primitive technology could not stand against Confederation warships, unless an idea began forming in Crix's mind. A desperate, probably futile plan that would violate every oath he had sworn as a Confederation agent. But as he watched the humans working tirelessly to build a better future for everyone in their solar system, he realized that his oaths to the Confederation mattered less than his conscience. On day 37 before the fleet's arrival, Crix made his decision. He began transmitting detailed technical specifications to human scientists around their planet. Not all at once, which would be too suspicious, but gradually, disguised as breakthrough discoveries made by human researchers themselves. Advanced materials science data went to Engineer Tae, helping him design more efficient spacecraft hulls. Improved energy systems blueprints reached Dr. On, allowing her team to develop more powerful reactors. Enhanced communication. Technology specifications arrived at facilities, run by Captain Ya and General Pei. Each transmission was carefully crafted to appear as if human scientists had made the discoveries independently. Crix knew that the humans' remarkable adaptability would allow them to understand and implement the new technology quickly. But even with advanced Confederation technology, could humanity build defenses strong enough to survive an extinction fleet in just 5 weeks? Crix wasn't sure, but he knew he had to try as he prepared the most dangerous transmission of all and detailed schematics for defensive weapon systems that could actually damage Confederation warships. Crix realized that his mission had changed completely. He was no longer observing humanity from the outside. He had become part of their story, committed to their survival regardless of the personal cost. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it felt like the first truly meaningful decision he had made in over 2 centuries of life. If the humans were going to die, they would at least have the chance to defend themselves. And if they somehow survived, The galaxy would never be the same again. Either way, Crix had chosen his side. He was no longer Agent Crix of the Valdori Confederation. He was a guardian of humanity, and he would do everything in his power to help them survive what was coming. On the morning the Confederation extinction fleet entered Earth's solar system, Crix did something no observer in the history of his people had ever done. He broke his concealment and transmitted a direct message to every human government, military installation, and space facility on the planet. People of Earth, my name is Crix. I am not human. For the past 4 months I have been watching your species from orbit. Today, 12 warships from my civilization have arrived in your system. They are here to destroy your world and everyone on it. The reaction was immediate chaos. Emergency broadcasts filled Earth's communication networks. Military commanders scrambled to verify the impossible message. Scientists pointed their telescopes toward space, searching for evidence of the approaching fleet. But within 6 hours, something remarkable happened. The chaos transformed into coordinated action. President Kim addressed the world from the Global Defense Council headquarters. We have confirmed the presence of 12 large vessels approaching Earth. Whether the warning message is genuine or not, we must assume the threat is real. All defensive systems are now active. All nations will share their resources and capabilities immediately. Admiral Joe, commander of Earth's combined space forces, began organizing humanity's meager orbital defenses. 3 space stations, 15 armed satellites, and 8 military spacecraft. Primitive by Confederation standards, but built with the advanced technology Crix had secretly provided over the past month. The humans worked with breathtaking efficiency. Factory complexes that had been producing civilian goods were converted overnight to manufacture weapons and defensive systems. Scientists who had been studying peaceful applications of their new technology began weaponizing everything they could. But what impressed Crix most was what happened next. Instead of panic or despair, the humans did something that had never occurred in any Confederation scenario analysis. They tried to communicate. Captain Ya, speaking for all of Earth, transmitted a message toward the approaching fleet. Unknown visitors, we have received a warning that you intend to destroy our world. Before you make that decision, we ask you to consider another option. We offer you alliance, cooperation, and friendship. The message continued with detailed proposals for mutual scientific exchange, joint exploration missions, and shared defense agreements. Captain Ya spoke not as a conquered species begging for mercy, but as equals offering partnership. Admiral Czar, commanding the extinction fleet, received the transmission with confusion and anger. In over 3 centuries of service, no species had ever responded to Confederation superiority with offers of cooperation. They either surrendered completely or fought desperately until they were destroyed. This is some kind of trick, Admiral Czar told his staff officers. They're trying to delay us while they prepare their defenses. But Commander Lex, his tactical officer, disagreed. Sir, our intelligence reports indicate they began organizing their defense within hours of the warning transmission. If this were a delaying tactic, they would be mobilizing military forces, not broadcasting scientific collaboration proposals. Admiral Czar studied the human transmission again. The offer seemed genuine. The humans were actually proposing that 2 civilizations could accomplish more together than either could alone. The concept was so foreign to Confederation thinking that Admiral Czar had no protocols for responding to it. Meanwhile, on Earth, the defensive preparations continued at an impossible pace. General Pa coordinated ground-based weapon systems with orbital platforms. Engineer Kim supervised the rapid construction of additional defense satellites using the new technology that had mysteriously appeared in human databases over recent weeks. But the humans also did something else that baffled their alien observers. They began preparing for the possibility of defeat, but not in the way any other species had done. Dr. On organized teams to record all human knowledge, culture, art, and history in compact data storage systems. These archives were loaded onto small, fast spacecraft designed to escape the solar system if Earth fell. Even if we don't survive, she explained to her teams, something of humanity should continue among the stars. Future civilizations should know that we existed, what we learned, and what we believed in. The evacuation ships were not designed to save people. There wasn't time or resources for that. Instead, they were built to carry the entire heritage of human civilization to safety. preserving it for unknown species who might benefit from humanity's discoveries and ideals. Dr. Min expanded her interstellar broadcasts, transmitting everything humanity had learned about asteroid deflection, planetary defense, and cooperative problem-solving. She addressed her messages to any civilization that might be listening. "We do not know if we will survive the next few days," she broadcast toward the stars. "But we hope our experiences can help others who face similar challenges. Cooperation is stronger than competition. Helping others makes everyone stronger. These truths are worth preserving even if we are not." As the Confederation fleet approached Earth's orbital zone, Admiral Czar found himself in an unprecedented situation. His orders were clear: eliminate all human life and infrastructure. But the human response to his arrival had created complications no one had anticipated. The humans were not acting like a primitive species facing extinction. They were behaving like mature allies proposing beneficial collaboration. Their messages demonstrated advanced understanding of galactic politics, scientific principles, and even military strategy. More troubling, they seemed to know exactly what kind of technology the Confederation possessed. Their defensive preparations showed sophisticated understanding of energy shields, plasma weapons, and space combat tactics that should have been completely unknown to them. "Sir," reported Intelligence Officer Kex, "the human defensive systems are far more advanced than our preliminary assessments indicated. Their energy shields are using technology similar to our own. Their weapons appear capable of penetrating our standard armor." Admiral Czar stared at the tactical displays showing Earth's defenses. Somehow, in just a few weeks, humanity had developed military capabilities that should have taken them centuries to discover. The only explanation was that someone had been helping them, someone with access to Confederation technology and detailed knowledge of their military capabilities. "Open a channel to Observer Crix," Admiral Czar commanded. When Crix's image appeared on the communication screen, Admiral Czar knew immediately that his suspicions were correct. The observer's expression showed guilt, determination, and something else that was completely inappropriate for a Confederation agent: defiance. "Agent Crix, explain the humans' advanced defensive capabilities." "They are a remarkable species, Admiral," Crix replied calmly, "more resourceful and adaptable than our databases predicted. Perhaps we should reconsider our classification of them." "You have interfered with a primitive species," Admiral Czar accused. "You have violated fundamental Confederation law by providing them with our technology." "I have observed them closely for 4 months, Crix said. "They are not primitive in any way that matters. They have shown capabilities that exceed many Category 3 civilizations. They deserve the chance to demonstrate what they can offer the galaxy." "They are a potential threat that must be eliminated," Admiral Czar replied. "Stand aside, Agent Crix. Do not interfere further." But Crix's ship moved into a defensive position between the fleet and Earth. His weapons were minimal compared to the extinction force, but his message was clear. "I cannot allow the destruction of this species," Crix transmitted. "They have shown me something that exists nowhere else in Confederation space. The ability to make others better than they were before. They have changed me, Admiral. They can change all of us." The standoff lasted for tense hours. Admiral Czar could easily destroy Crix's ship, but doing so would mean killing a decorated Confederation agent who had served faithfully for over 2 centuries. More importantly, the human response to the crisis had created political complications. Their offer of alliance, their advanced defensive preparations, and their dignified behavior in the face of extinction had impressed several of Admiral Czar's junior officers. "Sir," Commander Lex reported privately, "the crew is questioning the necessity of this mission. The humans are not behaving like a primitive threat. They appear to be a civilized species offering genuine cooperation." Admiral Czar realized that his own people were being influenced by humanity's example, just as Crix had been. The human philosophy of cooperation and mutual benefit was proving contagious even among disciplined Confederation military personnel. In the end, it was Captain Ya who resolved the crisis. She transmitted a final message to Admiral Czar, speaking directly to him rather than to his fleet. "Admiral, we know you have the power to destroy our world. We cannot stop you if that is your choice. But before you decide, consider what the galaxy could become if civilizations worked together instead of destroying each other. We offer you not submission, but partnership. We offer you the chance to build something greater than either of us could achieve alone." She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried absolute sincerity. "We have seen what cooperation can accomplish. We saved our world from cosmic destruction because people worked together across all boundaries. We offer you that same spirit of